Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Three Fates Decide. My name is Liz, and I'm with my two co hosts, Sam and Mary. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, and this time we will be discussing the recent strikes by the Writers Guild of America and now SAG-AFTRA. At the time that we are recording this episode, the SAG strike started last week. Um, by the time you hear this episode, the strike may or may not still be continuing, but we're going to talk about as the most recent info we've got as far as we know at this time.
You think you know what we're going to talk about.
And welcome back to Three Fates Decide.
It just sounds more dramatic that way.
All right. So this week we are going to be talking about.
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
One Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
I mean, we always celebrated Easter.
Harry Potter the Half-Blood Prince.
So we're going to do another free talk, freestyle thing. No planned discussion.
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
But we're going to hit the main highlights.
That is the thing, like what we were saying back in that episode.
Quick recap.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
So, I think the Writers Guild strike, wasn't it in May it got started?
Yeah, it's been about 3 months. All right, so May 2nd.
Yeah, so WGA started their strike on May 2nd. Like, I don't remember what all their demands were.
It was working conditions, compensation structure, and threats to their jobs. Obviously including AI. I know like the AI and stuff like that, it is a mixture of both. I know that's become more of a forefront with SAG in terms of actors, but I know writers were definitely, dealing with that too, because obviously AI can write scripts, fairly quickly. But yeah, the writers, I think their biggest thing is definitely payment, and a lot of the issues both with WGA and SAG come from the streaming stuff. This is a whole different world. Streaming has become so popular. I mean, I know I am on like 5 different streaming sites to watch this, that, and the other thing. And, first it started with the writers, that these writers weren't getting paid nearly enough. Like they couldn't pay their mortgage. They could barely even put food on the table. Like this is their full-time job and they weren't even making ends meet because of streaming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about it though, even before streaming kind of blew up in the last like 10 years or so, if we want to be generous here, like saying 10 years, like let's say, screenwriters can, like, how much they earn kind of varies, if I recall, because I mean, you have more of the background in screenwriting than I do, but it's like, if you get really lucky, you sell your screenplay, but then it's going to get changed like a few dozen times before it actually gets put on film, to the point where like you barely recognize your script.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for the WGA, which is the Writers Guild of America, in case we didn't mention that, obviously, besides the fact that they couldn't come up with a new contract between them and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which is the AMPTP, is definitely the compensation for writers via residuals with streaming. So this is all stemming from streaming, and pretty much both WGA and SAG-AFTRA want to come up with a new way that both writers and actors, and I'm not talking about your A-list actors, your, leads and all that stuff, they get paid very, very well, but they're striking along with everyone else, obviously, to help the little guys who aren't getting what they deserve. And they need to come up with a way that these people are getting paid for for streaming. I mean, I'm telling you, it's crazy ever since this happened. And it's more since, again, SAG-AFTRA joined the strike that, actors have been posting their residuals for their
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
I'm talking cents per episode or nothing at all for an episode. There's literally several of them that get $0 for a certain episode, or 3 cents, 4 cents, 7 cents. Like for an entire series, I was looking, one of the actresses from Orange is the New Black. Now, that series has a lot of actors in it. And this was a pretty prominent character for a season where she was literally in every single episode of Orange is the New Black. Her residuals were like $33 for the season. $33. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding? Like, that's just not right. And these big production companies, your Netflix, your, Paramount, Universal, all the are like these CEOs are making Disney, they're making bank. They are making, and like, I know, like, Netflix likes to say, oh, we're losing money, which is why they're, wanting to stick it to the clients. Now you can't share your passwords and all that crap. But like, these CEOs are not going poor. Netflix, I think, has 2 CEOs, and they just give each other bonuses. And they are literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars a year. And they sit there and they wonder why these actors and writers are now striking while they're living in their ivory towers. I would love to make 30,000 in like a month.
I
But
know, right?
like, when you hear that these they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and yet the actors that are actually doing the work to make them that money are getting $33 for residuals for an entire season, not just an episode, an entire season. That's wrong. And again, I get it. Streaming kind of came up and like boomed with COVID. So they didn't really think about it, but now they have to. And unfortunately, a lot of these CEOs and production companies don't want to deal with it. I don't even remember who it was. Oh my God, who was it that
Scarlett,
made?
Scarlett Johansson
Well,
was
yeah,
a
that was
big
the
thing.
beginning of it. That was
Yeah.
the beginning of it with her and Disney. That actually was what I think started the conversation. Was
Yeah.
when when Disney tried to screw Scarlett over with Black Widow, and she
Right.
wound up winning that fight.
Right. I
Thankfully.
mean, yeah, because, and I remember at the time there were a lot of people that were like, kind of scoffing at it because, like, she's an A-list actor. Like, why is, oh, just because she doesn't get like an extra like 2 million or whatever. There was a lot of snark about that. But I mean, obviously up front, it is about the money for her, right? But at the same time, whether she was consciously or not consciously doing this, she was also kind of preparing people to fight for residuals, for not just for her, but like for every actor out there. Because if someone like her, who is an A-list actor, is going to get screwed over basically out of being compensated for the work she did, bringing, the eyeballs, to this movie for Disney. What do you think they're going to do to, uh, prison guard number 2, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in this show or in this movie,
Right.
So,
Right. And I think part of the other issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dwayne The Rock Johnson had had a movie. I think it was like Jungle Cruise or something coming out
right.
around the same, and they worked with him to make sure his contract was taken care of, that he was getting paid, but not for Scarlett. So I think that was also like the other thing. But like, it's yeah, that was definitely the beginning of, I think everyone was like, everyone at least in Hollywood, writers, actors, whatever, started like looking like, wait a minute, like Something's
Right.
not right here. And again, with no one knew that I think streaming was going to go as far as it did, you know?
Right.
But people don't go to the theaters anymore, really. I mean, they do, but they don't. But like this past weekend, again, as we're recording this past weekend was the opening for Barbie and Oppenheimer. It was the biggest weekend of the year for movies. This is the end of July, and this was the biggest weekend for movies all year because people aren't going anymore. People sit there and go, I'm going to wait until it goes on streaming.
Yeah.
Because then they don't have to pay extra money. So it's like, and yes, with Black Widow, Disney Plus did make you pay an additional whatever in order to watch it, like when it came out. But you could have a party of 20 something people, only one person pays the $20 whatever, and then 20 plus people can watch the movie together. So it's like, like back in the day before streaming, writers and actors and studios and all that stuff make a movie. They have a budget, they make a movie, goes into the movie theaters. Based on the box office, people get paid. It was simple, it was easy. Streaming has completely taken that away. Where now box offices are making less money and these streaming companies are making whatever when they put the movie on. But the people that worked on the movie, the actors and the writers and whatever, aren't getting their cut. Where, I mean, it kind of reminds me, there's also a thing going around with like Spotify where musicians aren't getting paid for their music that is streaming on like Spotify.
Right.
Because it's like where before you sell a CD or whatever, and they get a cut of that sale. So they have to come up with something. And this is for all streaming, whether it's music, movies, TV, what have you. Something needs to happen. And these big production companies just don't want to do anything because they're making the money. So they don't care.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which CEO it was, but one of the CEOs made mention with the writer's strike that, wait until they can't, pay their mortgage or whatever, and then they'll come and beg, for whatever. And I'm like, like you're such an asshole. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was either.
It might have been one of the Netflix CEOs, honestly. But yeah, it's just like, it's so disgusting. So disgusting.
And the funny thing is that there are actually a lot of people commenting on the actors' strike, especially some of whom do actually understand why they're striking. They fully support. And then there are other people who are like, I don't give who the hell are these people complaining about blah blah blah. And it's like, it reminds me like very recently because of the strike happening. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but there was an actor who was one of the cast members in Iron Fist, which for some of you guys, if you don't remember or you never watched the show, it was originally a Netflix Marvel TV collaboration, and now it's available on Disney Plus as part of the Defenders, join up later. But anyway, one of the cast members mentioned that he actually only got paid about $400 a day, which granted, sounds like a lot. And for some people that is, a lot depending on, what job you do and what part of the country in the US you live in.
Mm-hmm.
But for people who don't understand how acting, professional acting works, that $400 a day is literally, in theory, what you are getting when you're actually on set, when it's in production. Once the production is over, you are not getting that $400 a day anymore.
Right.
Right. So it's like, unless you or your agent are really good and got you booked for another gig, the following month or whatever after this production is over, you're going to have to go without being paid very much, you know. And it's like, how do you live off of that?
Right. I mean, again, with these strikes, you're not talking about your A-list celebrities who make bank, right? Your Leonardo DiCaprio's and, Meryl Streep's and stuff like that, because obviously like they're good. But again, they join for the little guy or whatever. But even this guy, or your B-list actors, obviously C-list, D-list, uh the guys that are just background actors, stuff like that. They're the ones that really get screwed because, as you said, they get paid when they're filming and then it's gone. And then you go based off of how much it makes. Well, when it's streaming, you don't really, they're not able to come up with a way to get them paid. And actors work, get paid. So you think of like working paycheck to paycheck, right? These people in I want to say the real world
Right.
work paycheck to paycheck. If you think about it, a lot of those actors and writers work paycheck to paycheck, where they finish a job and they need to hurry up and find something else. And for them, they can audition or whatever and not get signed for months. That's why a lot of them, again, the lower level actors or whatever, have those part-time jobs as waiters and stuff like that because they need money until you're able to get big enough jobs that you have like a little nest egg that you can take a little break in between. Like you really are working paycheck to paycheck, and that's who the strike is really for. Is for those people who suffer because they aren't making any money off of the work that they do, even though they work months on these projects for ridiculous hours
Right. So
of the
it's like,
day.
right.
And
Right. So like that example I was like saying about like, oh, I got paid $400 a day. Well, it's like, if you think that's a lot of money, you're thinking from the perspective of like an 8-hour work day. An 8-hour work day, $400 is, yeah, sure, it is pretty good amount of money, right?
right, exactly.
But if you're an actor on set, you could be working 12 hours. You may even be technically on set for 15 hours if you have to do like prosthetics and all this like makeup and costuming and everything. I mean, you imagine how many hours like Karen Gillan had to
Mm,
be when she does Nebula, or
yeah.
or what gosh, my brain is, or any of these actors that have to like go full on makeup or prosthetics, like
Bautista,
yeah,
Dave
Yeah.
Bautista.
yeah, him too. David. I mean, they have to be on set even earlier than some of their castmates, all because of that. And technically they are working for that whatever hundred something dollars, a day for that. So it's not really $50 an hour you're getting paid. It probably is closer to like, minimum wage at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, SAG-AFTRA initially, they were just, they were obviously standing with the WGA. And then when it finally got to the point that like they couldn't get their issues straightened out, they went, and started to strike also as of July 14th. So today it's been just about over a week. I guess almost 2 weeks since the SAG-AFTRA strike started. And yeah, I mean, again, by the time this comes out, I would love for it to be, straightened out, but I highly doubt it because I feel like it's just too much. But, it really affects everything. I mean, just the WGA strike affected everything. You got to think about when this happened. This was May 2nd. So, anyone who had, even like the nighttime shows, like the Jimmy Fallons and all that stuff, they had to stop. They had to stop their show because they don't have writers. Any show that, was being written, like Stranger Things and, all that stuff stopped, done.
Right.
Movies that were in the process of being written stopped, done, and now that SAG-AFTRA has struck, anything that was done that still had the possibility to at least start shooting or was almost done and could at least start shooting is done. So there's going to be, after this, and I think that might be one of the reasons why this past weekend was so big. After this, there's not much coming, so this has happened before where the, strikes have gone on for a long time. Hollywood, honestly, I don't think can afford it because they are still trying to figure out life after COVID shut down. They haven't come back from that completely. So now to have this on top of it, it's just going to like, whew. But, they do have solid complaints. As I mentioned about the writers, their biggest thing obviously was the compensation for residuals, 100%. Plus their working locations are, like they want better, writers' rooms for like TV shows. And, obviously AI is a huge thing for both WGA and SAG-AFTRA because that is a real, like AI is scary. Like I feel like we need to do an episode on the possibilities of AI one day because like I feel like iRobot is going to come to fruition.
I know.
One of these days. But, I don't know whether they have started using AI for stuff in terms of actors in the background and things like that. But it's just, you're going to use an actor's likeness and they're not going to get paid for it. So it's going to be like they're in your movie, but they're not going to get paid because it wasn't really them. Like that's messed up that you feel like you can do that. You're going to write scripts and I don't see I just don't. You're going to put people out of work and for what? So that you can get things faster. Like sometimes when things are faster, they're not better. So, but yeah,
cough Marvel Cinematic Universe cough.
Yeah, seriously, the last couple of years of the MCU, like hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. But so the streaming residual thing is definitely up there. The AI thing definitely up there. And then for also SAG, they want greater regulations for self-tape auditions.
Yeah, I don't even know why they're still doing that because okay, when we were still having when the pandemic was really bad, that you can understand why they do the auditions that way, right? But it's like now people are moving out and about a hell of a lot more than they did even 2 years ago. So it's like, why do you need to do auditions that way now? I mean, and also I completely understand if like let's say you want to audition actors from another country and you don't want to fly them over specifically to do an audition like, you would have done like 5 years ago, but I mean seriously, why do you need to have every single actor? Like why do you need actors like within like if you were trying to cast, an American TV show or an American movie, like why do you need American actors to have to do that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But the I think the two biggest things for both are definitely the residuals for streaming and the AI, which both totally valid. Again, 100% totally valid things to be concerned about and want solutions for.
Yep.
I can totally understand that. And if you haven't had a chance, you can YouTube when SAG did announce that it was going on strike. Fran Drescher, the president of SAG-AFTRA, made a amazing speech about it. She got so emotional.
Yeah, Fran Drescher.
Like, the decision that was taken lightly. Like, they really consider. I mean, this was something that had been talked about, and they were trying, and then they finally were just like, "That's it, you're done." Like, now we have to do this, and you could just hear the frustration when she was talking. I thought it was a very powerful thing. So I suggest you go on YouTube and look it up, because it was pretty awesome. If
Well,
I do say so myself.
well, I mean, if I find the link, I could actually put it in the show notes for on our website um, when we release this episode.
Mm.
Yeah, that is actually what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to include any bonus stuff in the show notes on our website that are relevant to whatever our episodes are about. So yeah, um, I'll be including that on the website. That's another reason why you guys should visit it. But yeah, I mean, more people should honestly be sympathizing with the strikers, because who is not frustrated with their jobs and their what they're getting paid and whatever benefits or lack of benefits you're getting, you know? Because I don't know about you, Sam, going on social media, like seeing what people are saying about this whole situation, but I've definitely seen like a good portion of people definitely agree that all these things are completely ridiculous, and you know the the producers and the studios need to get over themselves and go back to the negotiation table and offer some real um stuff to the unions, like something real, something that's actually you know something that both the unions would accept, as terms in new contracts. But, there are still some people who, like I mentioned earlier, are very skeptical and are like, why are these people like protesting? Yang, 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 yang. And it's like, you know, you're thinking of doing these jobs like the way a lot of other people have salaried jobs, the 9 to 5, 5 days a week type of mentality. But that is not what these people are doing. When you think about it conceptually speaking, what these jobs are, they're contract labor is what it is. It's contract labor. It's not salaried labor where,
Mm-hmm.
where you automatically get like 401ks and health insurance and vacation PTO type
Right.
stuff. That is not what these people are getting. In fact, actually I remember when Ki Kwan, was doing all the interviews for Everything Everywhere All at Once, he actually did mention on a couple occasions that, he lost his health insurance, before he got booked for that movie, because if you're not like an active member of the union and everything, you eventually lose your health insurance, and, God forbid something happens to you, health wise, you're screwed basically.
Yeah.
So, that's why like some of these like naysayers really need to do some reading and actually understand what the heck these people are fighting for, and understand that no, that $400 a day is not as much money as you think it actually is. I mean, for some actors, this $400 a day they're getting for like, 2 months of filming could be the biggest paycheck they're getting the whole year, unfortunately, in some
Mm-hmm.
cases. And that's
Yeah.
completely ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think the problem is that most people, when they think of Hollywood, they think of that those A-list stars that live in monster mansions and, this, that, and the other thing. But again, that's not who this strike is for. It's not who this strike is for. You got to look past any A-list anything and look beyond that. That's who this strike is for. It's for all the little people that bust their butt to make sure that, we get our movies and, completely, full of talented, actors or whatever, all these talented actors that bust their butt for weeks, months, whatever, and don't get the same recognition as your A-listers. That, the writers who bust their butt to write these amazing movies, TV shows that we all come to love, get the recognition and the money that they are due. Like, that's who this is for. It's for those people that don't get the same recognition or pay as those A-list stars do, because they're not up to that level, or they're not at, they're not number one on the call sheet and this, that, and the other thing. Like, that's who that's who they're all fighting for. And the thing I love about with this strike is it, whether or not they wanted to, and I think most of them get it. So, like, I don't see any A-listers necessarily having a problem with it, but it forces them to fight for those little guys. Because I mean, they can't work either. I actually just found the list of everything that for the if you're in part of SAG-AFTRA, you cannot do as a result of this.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even stuff like appearing on podcasts like our show.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we ever have anybody else
Well,
like that on our
only
show.
if you're promoting.
Right.
Like, they can go on like podcasts, they just can't promote anything.
Right, but still. Also, it even includes conventions, which very notably, a lot of actors did not show up at San Diego Comic-Con, which just happened this past weekend. Very
Which
notably.
is usually the biggest one.
Yeah. I mean, I can't lie. Since I'm going to go to New York Comic-Con, I'm also a bit worried how long this is going to get dragged out, because because I 100% support the actors doing this, because they're fighting for their rights, they're fighting for their livelihoods, and I 100% understand that. But at the same however, at the same time, like, I am very much aware that even though Comic-Con's not until October, it's like, all right, how long are these jerks, at the studios going to drag this out, So, because, conventions, convention appearances do count as like promotional things, which is 9 times out of 10 the reason why actors, celebrities like that show up in the first place. So, yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah. I mean, they can't go to any premieres or screenings, and it just happened that when the strike happened, the cast of Oppenheimer were in England, I think, for the premiere.
Yeah.
And they left. They were there. They got word that the strike was happening, and they left.
Yeah, as soon as they were done on walking the red carpet, it got announced, and they were like, "Okay, we have to leave."
Yep.
All these A-listers, they left.
Gotta go.
Because they are part of this union, and they are being solidarity with all the other actors who are not as fortunate as them, and they're very cognizant of this fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
So once this goes on a little longer and hopefully ends, I'm sure we'll do another episode to kind of talk about the outcome of this. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, toes, eyes, whatever you can cross, that it doesn't last too long. But with the way that the studios are acting, I don't see this ending in the near future. As of the end of July, I do not see this ending anytime soon.
Not unless,
But
like,
we'll see.
Yeah, I know. Not unless, like, something really drastic happens and it forces them to go back to the negotiating table.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
But
but I
you know,
mean, I do 100% agree with both WGA and SAG-AFTRA that, their concerns are 100% valid and need to be taken care of. Again, it's a different world than what their contracts were, because when those contracts were made, streaming wasn't a thing. Streaming is now not only just a thing, it's a huge thing. It's the main way people see TV, movies, whatever. So they have to come up with a way that these people who deserve to get their money get paid through streaming. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm glad it's not my job to figure that out,
right.
but they have to do something. And then
Yeah.
especially like with AI, because that just creeps me out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like
Yeah,
one
have you seen the AI on TikTok?
Yes, it creeps me out.
Yeah. It's like, good lord.
I'm telling you, iRobot, it's gonna
I mean, like
happen.
all these like deep fake things. I mean, it's like for crying out loud.
Yep.
Really bizarre.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, again with the social media response, like I remember I've seen some comments where people are like, well, if they're not getting paid enough, why are they still doing, these jobs? It's like, why don't you try asking, people that work at the supermarket, like why aren't they working at a different job if, they don't like the pay or whatever? Why don't you go ask
Right.
that to any person who ends up doing a minimum wage job out there, why they don't change jobs, you know? I
Right.
mean,
I mean, they love what they're doing, like they love to act or write or whatever. Like that's their passion. Some of them went to school for this.
right,
That doesn't mean that they don't like, they should just ignore the fact that they're being paid crap.
right. I mean, and not to mention, it's like, to be honest, you know, m- if you are extremely talented at, like, let's say acting as an example here, if you weren't acting, what would you even do? I mean, for some people, they legitimate will tell you that, like, no, my thing was always acting. I never had any other goals, like career goals or anything other than I wanted to be an actor. So they have nothing else, you know.
Right.
So it's like what alternative do you expect them to be doing exactly,
Right.
you know? Because it's like even professional athletes, already know going into, sports, know that their careers as a professional athlete could end at any time. So they usually, if they're smart, they have some kind of backup plan to what they would do, you know, uh, after they ideally quit because they're retiring and not some other reason, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But, if you were if your goal since you were young was to be, the next Steven Spielberg or something, what, what other alternative do you have if you don't achieve it or whatever? For some people, they don't have any other plans. It's like go home or go bust kind of a thing. It's like those kind
Yeah.
of comments annoy the hell out of me when I've seen them.
Yeah. Again, it's people who, when they think of, this, they only think of the high paying actors that they see in, the movies or whatever. Like, you got to stop focusing on them. You got to think about everyone else. You got to think about everyone else. Like, because like they work just as hard or sometimes even harder,
Yeah.
and listen, they understand, because, I also heard things of like, oh, they're not considering the crew and this, now they're out of jobs. And but trust me, I can promise you that was a consideration. But I guarantee that the crews are behind them as well. Like they're standing in solidarity with them because they get it, like, yes, does it stink that people now cannot work as a result. Yes, but you're blaming the wrong people. Now listen, I've never been a huge union person. Unions have pros and cons, obviously. But like, I get it. I 100% get it in this case because the wrong people are getting screwed over by the big guy. I mean, and maybe it's just because I watch Newsies like last week and like now I'm all like, yeah, fight them, yeah. But it's like, like that's what you need to do. You need to go after the big guys that think that they can do whatever the heck they want. And it doesn't matter because it doesn't affect them directly. They're still getting their money off of these TV shows, movies, whatever. So, whatever, who the heck cares? They don't care that everyone else is like, please, sir, I want some more because I can barely afford what I have. Like, there's no reason why these writers, can't afford their homes or to put food on the table for their family. Like, that should be a basic, like, that shouldn't be difficult. That they should be able to live off of their work.
Right.
Like, that is their full-time job.
Right. Especially the writers who work on TV shows. I mean, you would think that like if you were part of a writing team on a TV show with like multiple episodes, you would be getting a regular check for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure if you were like a movie, writer, the pay scales, the payment is probably kind of different, so
depending on how big the movie is and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But you would think that, if you got like, say, hired to write on The Simpsons, for example, like you would be getting like pretty regular paychecks for that. But it's like, you know, so I would find it very disturbing if people like that are not getting enough money to support themselves and their families and whatever. I mean, that would be completely ridiculous. Like, it's like, how are you churning out like 20 something episodes every year or whatever it is? And these people are not getting paid for all the scribbling they're doing, I scribbled all those scenes for Bart to like do this, that, and the other. It's like, how come I'm not getting more money for this?
Exactly.
Exactly
that. So again, we'll see what happens. But I'm on the union side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we're really fortunate in the next few weeks, something will happen that will end this, before the fall. Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, some of the fall schedule stuff is already messed up as it is. Because normally they would start filming at least the first few episodes now.
Soon, like within toward like the next month ish. Yeah, they'd be starting to come together.
Yeah.
Yep. Not gonna happen as of right now.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Yeah. And hopefully when this, the strike will end sooner rather than later, and we could do like a follow-up just discussing exactly what some of the terms they ended up agreeing to came out to. I mean, obviously, we're not union members, so we won't like know every little nitty-gritty detail, but we'll definitely be looking up like what are the major things that got put on the table that the union is eventually going to vote on, whether they agree and approve of all the terms, etc. So
yeah.
Yep. But this is big in Hollywood.
Yes, it is. And there are some international, like acting unions or whatever that are, standing in solidarity with SAG that I saw. So that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I mean,
because this affects the whole world. This isn't just America. Because actors from all over the place, come to the U.S. to work, and they're not going to be able to. So this affects like the whole world of acting, unless you're like a tiny little or not time, that's a wrong way to phrase it, but if you're only known in like your country or whatever, and you're a part of like the smaller unions or whatever, then I don't think it'll affect you. But, you know, these bigger actors that are from all over, you know, are either part of SAG-AFTRA or, you know, work along with Hollywood, and they're not going to be able to. So I'm interested to see what happens. Did you like what you heard on our episode today? Well, then feel free to come back and listen to us again. You can find us on all different streaming sites, including Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it, we're there. And if you really like us, feel free to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 3 Fates Decide. That's THREE Fates Decide. You can also email us at 3fatesdecide@gmail.com. And check out our website at 3fatesdecide.com to find other episodes, information about your 3 hosts, and all of our other links. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on 3 Fates Decide.